In your space and in terms of the work that you do, and feel free to give us a little bit of a background of what that is, does that approach make its way into your engagement as a differentiator? How challenging has it been, though, as you start thinking about bringing in those types of solutions to solve the problem? How do you give your customers the assurance that the underpinnings, the foundations of what you have built is something that is going to stand the test of time?
Welcome to 5 Minutes, your fast track to smarter insurance technology and stronger leadership. In the next 5 minutes, we're going to show you a better way to lead, scale, and innovate without the chaos. Let's get into it.
All right, Sean. So welcome to the podcast. Yeah. We're here at InsurTech Americas 2026. Were you here last year?
No, this first year here.
First year here?
Yeah.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about what it is that you're looking for here out of this conference. What specifically?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've heard, and appreciate you having me here, Miguel. We've heard about this conference for a number of years, and folks have just said, hey, why aren't you going? And actually, I live in Cambridge, Massachusetts, so it's a short drive up this way. My mom actually lives in town, and so it was kind of like a double win for me. So super excited just to kind of see the programming. I think they're like more rapid sessions here with respect to like, 15, 30, 45-minute type stuff. And so you're bop from one stage to the next, back to back. So like today, I probably sat on 8 sessions. We're in a typical conference. Maybe I would have sat in 3 at this point in time, and then also had some great hallway conversations along the way. So for me, a little bit of learning, a little bit of networking. So far, it's checking both those boxes.
Good. Awesome. And so, one of the things that I always think about when I come to these conferences is, the speed with which technology is constantly evolving the industry, and it feels like it's accelerating more and more and more. Talk to me about whether or not you're seeing that same thing, and B, how does it show up for you and your clients?
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So we've been at this for 6 years now. We serve some of the largest third-party administrators and carriers in the world. But I would say that up until probably 2 years ago, when I think like the models were getting so darn good that people were like, wow, this stuff's going to be transformative. Then we started seeing both customers and prospects come to us and others to say, hey, how should we be thinking about this? What should be our strategy? And they were these collaborative conversations that we had just never seen the likes of it the previous 4 years that we've been working in the P&C space. And so for us, we're definitely seeing this acceleration of everyone wanting to understand what's everyone else doing? What should we be doing? How might you be able to help? How should we be thinking about partnering with other vendors, outside consultants, you name it? And so the pace at which that's happening is just like nothing I've ever seen in the 6 and change years that we've been doing it. And then in the same way, just the technology continues to evolve so fast. And so the output, the results that these things been able to deliver has just been like absolutely transformative. So I've never seen a more exciting time to be in insurance. It's really cool.
I hear that. And I share that enthusiasm. Talk to me a little bit about some of the challenges though that come with that speed.
Totally.
Because I know, being in the industry as long as I have, I know that turning the ship is not easy. And sometimes some of this adoption requires a pretty steep turn.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you hear a lot of folks asking the questions of like, what should we be doing? And I think that like my past life was out of like a Lean Six Sigma master black belt. And so like this idea of process improvement, understanding the root cause of issues. I think when somebody comes to you with that question and it's like, well, we need to understand a lot more about your workflows, your processes. What are you trying to accomplish? And I think that technology is a great enabler of like process like improvement, but it's not one that's going to actually solve everything without the actual kind of like process improvement workflow kind of Lean Six Sigma type practices to be able to truly improve stuff. So I think we see that chicken and egg problem of like, hey, we want to be able to implement technology. It's like, great, what are we trying to solve? And is the process as good as we can get? And so now technology is an enabler. So that'd be one. And then the other one would be that it seems like everybody and their brother started in InsurTech in the last probably 3 years. And so it feels like the carriers and the TPAs that we get a chance to work with every day, it's got to be tough because you're constantly being bombarded with the same exact languages that everyone's probably using ChatGPT or Claude to write. And so it sounds identical and you look at the booths and a lot of look like the same. And so I think that's a challenge for every big carrier, TPA, and really even the smallest of ones that are trying to decide, who do I want to dance with? What does that look like? Where do we start?
Right. Yeah. And it's funny, the thing that you said, that first thing that you said, kind of, I think to some extent creates that differentiation that you're talking about, because you have an opportunity, especially with your background, to focus in on the business problem. And that's not something that I see a lot of folks doing now. I see a lot of the providers are focusing in on the solution. Hey, we this, and this, and then we can do this and we can do this. But all of that without even fully understanding the business problem. So in your space and in terms of the work that you do, and feel free to give us a little bit of a background of what that is, does that approach make its way into your engagement as a differentiator?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think the initial discovery process for one is one that if you would have talked to me probably 6 years ago, maybe we probably would have started with a demo, but now with, truly like the acceleration of where AI and agentic AI are going, we always start with a couple of discovery calls up front to really understand like what is the customer trying to solve for and where can technology potentially enable that. And so like that'd be like point one. Point two would be like how we think about it, at least at Crosstie, is one of like, there's going to be a million point solutions out there and like you're going to have to try to figure out which one makes sense for you. What we've done is let basically customers devise our roadmap for us. And because we didn't come from insurance, we've been at this 6 years. We know enough to be dangerous now because we got kicked in the shins a lot. But like for us, it wasn't one that we had this grand vision of coming in and doing X, Y, Z. It was what are the problems that we're seeing, like true root cause problems, and how can we solve them? And that allowed us to be able to build 8 different solutions that could be used in a modular way. And so for us, every engagement to your question is one that's like, which solution makes sense at what point in time to be able to enable that process efficiency or that better customer experience, whether the customer is the claimant, customer is the policyholder. And so for us, it's not one that we're ever pushing. It's always we're letting the customer kind of pull us towards what are we trying to solve for, and then which solution makes sense, and then how do we sequence those appropriately.
Can you double click on that and give me a case study? Like give me an example of a customer problem, how you identified it, and how you ultimately solved it?
Yeah, no, for sure. And so like a lot of times what you'll hear is like, hey, intake, something we want to be able to try to improve. And it's like, okay, great. Well, what is your intake process today? And it's like, well, we've got a web form. Okay, great. What are you trying to improve? Well, we know agentic voice this thing now. And so it's like, okay, well, do you have a lot of, let's say, cat kind of overflow calls where you're trying to solve for it from a staffing perspective? Or is it just you want to be able to supplement what you currently do through a web form by having kind of the voice capability without having to staff a contact center? Or is there this kind of like omni-channel approach that you want to take towards, we want people to be able to text, we want them to be able to email, we want them to be able to fax stuff in, we want to be able to have voice. So we're just trying to improve customer experience. And so for us, just going to a customer to say, yeah, we could do any of those things, but let's understand what are you truly trying to solve for? And a lot of times there's a specific answer there where it's like, no, it's just for cat stuff. And so like, okay, if it's just cat stuff and now all of a sudden you're going to get 400 calls in a day, totally get it. An agentic voice solution is probably going to work great for you, but you're also going to want to probably like tailwind that with something around like the ability to text in anything. So evidence collection becomes really easy. That connects and validates right off your PAS. We can automate downstream workflows, but how does that fit into your specific workflows? And so again, every question for us is one that just tries to help us dig deeper into like, what are we trying to get better at? And how can we use technology to be able to do that?
Yeah, I love that. So what I heard actually is the customer actually came in and said, hey, we want to use agentic voice. Yep. Okay, so it's a tool, right? But to do what? Do what? And it's really fascinating. How challenging has it been though, as you start thinking about bringing in those types of solutions to solve the problem, dealing with legacy architecture, the customer's legacy environments, some of the sins of the past?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So we've actually had to develop our own insurance native ETL from the ground up so that we can essentially play kindly with any CMS, PAS, RIMIS, you name it, seamlessly. And so you can send us data in any format, cadence, you name it. We basically make sense of it and we get it back to any system in any cadence in any format that you'd want without you having to think twice. And so that's made the interoperability so much easier for us, but it was a pretty significant investment that we had to make early on to be able to handle like all of the different requests and requirements of carriers, TPAs, self-insureds, you name it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. You identify that friction area and that becomes a big accelerator for you. So we'll wrap on this one here, man. But this is a thought-provoking one. You know, one of the things that I know that, especially I'm working with some of my clients, and I help advise them on the solutions that they're selecting on. There's to me always this question of continuous architectural flexibility. Because of that change that we're talking about, we have to make sure that our customers have to make sure that the people that they're partnering with have solutions that are flexible enough to evolve as the technology is evolving faster and faster. How do you give your customers the assurance that the underpinnings, the foundations of what you have built is something that is going to stand the test of time.
Yeah.
That's, it could be next year where there's an evolution that completely upsets everything.
No, it's a great question. I mean, so what I could say is that when we first got into this space, we weren't ones that fell backwards into it. We jumped head into it.
Okay.
Got super excited about the problem. And what we found is that after doing like a year of research, that everyone is their own special snowflake in a way. And so what we had to actually do is we built our own content management system, similar like a Salesforce, but for risk and insurance.
Okay.
And so everything that we do is configurable right out of the box.
Got it.
And so I know people talk no code. We've built that with every single thing that you could potentially deploy, from an AI to automation to really any other experience solution that we've built. And so one, that helps us in a pretty significant way be able to serve customers from a not just now, but hey, next week, next month, next year, you want to change X, Y, Z. Those are things that we can typically make those config changes immediately.
Right.
And then obviously model agnostic in our nature and setup with respect to how do we come to life. And in terms of the actual infrastructure that we can pull on, we try to make it so that it fits the needs of the actual customer. And so whether that's something where they start in a multi-tenant, want to transfer to a single tenant, we want to start for a multinational business in one area, expand to the next, add languages. Those are all things that we've become well-versed in now, but it is one that's constantly evolving and we have to stay on top of it. And that's obviously the investment that we have to make as an InsurTech to make sure that we're setting our customers up for success long-term and not just helping them with a Band-Aid right now.
Love it. Love it. Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, man. I hope you have a really great
thanks so much, Miguel. This has been great. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining this episode of 5 Minutes. If you've enjoyed our discussion, we'd love for you to share with anyone else you think might find it interesting. Also, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening on and hit that bell to stay on top of the game with our practical 5-minute episodes. We look forward to seeing you again next week.